told all of you that there was something inside me.
What really shocks me to the core about From is the fact that the show still has not stopped dropping mystery bombs on us. I mean, there is really no better way to frame this. Don't get me wrong, I am all for savoring the true essence of delayed gratification, derived from a carefully woven story, but From really is testing the waters with us at this point. We just have a long list of questions piling up each episode, and the latest reason to rack our brains is understanding what is actually happening to Fatima's body in Season 4. Having said that, in this video, we will map out all the bizarre crap Fromville has been making our girl Fatima go through since Season 3, while also discussing some of my personal theories on what might actually be happening to her. So, without wasting another moment, let's get right to it.
That thing I carried inside me, I still feel it.
Who is Fatima? Well, everyone who has watched From cannot exactly ignore Fatima's presence in the town. Fatima Hassan first came into Fromville on 28 February 2021 while driving back from Boulder, Colorado to Portland, Oregon. Soon she began living in Colony House after being trapped in the township, and eventually fell in love with Boyd's son, Ellis. In the earlier seasons, Fatima used to be the persistent voice of optimism and hope for those around her, irrespective of the occasional trials and the stress of being trapped in a town that is designed to kill you. Sadly, the sunny optimism in her slowly began fading as the horrors of Fromville began getting to her. Recently in Season 4, it was revealed that Fatima was born in Iran, where her father was an outspoken cleric who ended up provoking the conservative government with his modern ideas. As a form of retaliation, many men came to her house on her birthday and dragged her father outside while her mother asked her to hide. They ended up shooting him dead, and soon after, her family found a way to escape to the United States for a safer life. Fatima has usually always tried to make everyone feel comfortable in Colony House. When the Matthews family first came into town, Fatima was the one who took Julie in after she decided to live in Colony House and actually helped her find moments of happiness in that perennial horror. Fatima's freak pregnancy was nothing short of a body horror. So do you remember that time in Season 2 when Dale ended up stabbing Ellis and it caused him to lose a lot of blood to a point that he needed a transfusion? Well, at that point, Boyd was also going through his own thing after an emaciated man named Martin, who he met in the dungeons, ended up giving him bloodworms that were crawling under his skin. But the issue was that Ellis's blood type was O negative, and as Boyd shared the same blood type, he was the only one qualified for the transfusion. Unfortunately, he refused to give his blood to his son as he was scared that whatever was inside of him would be transferred into Ellis, and so he was adamantly against it. But Ellis was losing blood and dying, so Fatima begged Boyd to agree for the transfusion because nothing could be worse than Ellis dying. That is when Kenny volunteered to take the bloodworms from Boyd through the same ritualistic process that Martin infected him with. But Boyd impulsively acted on another plan. He blatantly ran out of the clinic and began calling out to the creatures. That is when Smiley arrives, and as other creatures start to close in on him, Boyd cuts his palm, walks up to Smiley, and then cuts the monster's throat. Of course, it had no effect on Smiley as he continued grinning, but then Boyd took his wounded palm and pressed it against Smiley's open throat before reciting the words, "My blood is your blood now." Initially, Smiley thinks of it as a game, and all creatures go in to attack the crazy guy saying crazy words. But then Boyd painfully feels the worms leave his body. Meanwhile, Smiley begins to writhe and howl in pain as his human appearance disappears, revealing his true monster face. The sight of this draws the other creatures to inspect what is happening to Smiley, which gives Boyd enough time to run back to the clinic. Soon after, the creatures slowly walk away as Smiley's body lays lifelessly on the road. With the bloodworms gone, Boyd ends up saving Ellis's life. However, on the next morning, Boyd and Kenny stare at Smiley's body, wondering if he really is dead. And given that, they dissected the guy and then burnt him. I think they had every reason to believe that Smiley was really dead. But oh well, we know how badly that assumption ended for them. So when Fatima was reeling from the thought of losing Ellis, as he is her only anchor in that hellish town, Christy tries to comfort her. Fatima then asks Christy for a pregnancy test and urges her to keep the matter a secret. Soon it was confirmed that Fatima was pregnant, and everyone really was elated at the thought of a miracle finally happening in a place flooded with nightmare. Initially, Fatima's pregnancy felt fine, but that miracle soon turned into an absolute body horror. As days passed, she began acting weird, fully gave up on eating, and could only consume rotten vegetables or dirt. In fact, she even found herself drawn to the blood from a dead body and ended up eating feeding that blood. When things started getting worse, Ellis took her into the clinic for an ultrasound, but then everyone was absolutely shocked after Christy and Marielle found nothing in her uterus, even if she showed all signs of being pregnant. Finally, Fatima went over the edge as she snapped and mistakenly killed an old woman named Tilly, who was simply trying to stop her from eating literal garbage. As a result, Ellis took her to a shack and kept her there so she did not end up hurting anyone else. But then Fatima started seeing the terrifying woman in a kimono trying to get to her. It only got worse when Elgin kidnapped her and took her to the root cellar. As it turns out, the kimono ghost woman made Elgin believe that the only way for them to find their way home was for Fatima to give birth, and it was on Elgin to accelerate the process by feeding her his own blood. Even if Fatima tried to convince him that whatever was inside of her was everything bad, Elgin called the baby their salvation from this hellhole. He then fed her his own blood, and that basically accelerated her pregnancy fully. Later, Fatima tried to escape, but the ghostly kimono woman stopped her. Before you know it, Fatima started experiencing painful contractions, and as she opened her dress to look at her stomach, she saw something inside her moving. While Ellis, Boyd, Donna, and the rest of the town did everything in their power to search for her, Fatima tried her best to derail the birth by throwing the jar of Elgin's blood on the wall and using a large glass shard to try and cut her stomach open. But once again, the kimono woman showed up, ordering her to stop. She grabbed the shard and held it to her throat before telling her that he was coming. Just at that very moment, Fatima's water broke and she began screaming in pain. The kimono woman then assisted Fatima as she gave birth to a fleshy, sack-like pod. The ghostly woman then took the pod in an underground cavern, and when Boyd later followed after her, he witnessed the rebirth of the smiley creature as the pod slowly grew bigger and he broke out of it. Well, that certainly explained Fatima's cravings for rotten vegetables, blood, and killing Tilly. All these morbid desires basically stemmed from the bloodthirsty monster growing inside her, and this also explains why the ultrasound was unable to detect a human baby. It also proved that even if the residents of Fromville killed one of these monsters, the immortality deal they made with the man in yellow, or the cosmic entity, who is the architect of this nightmare, would find a way to resurrect them, meaning any sense of victory that Boyd had found was stripped away.
Sacrificed their children because it promised them that they would live forever.
Fatima seems to have developed a symbiotic relationship with Smiley. So Smiley's resurrection confirmed that the monsters can never really die. This is further solidified when Fatima finds out during the birth that these monsters were the original residents of the town, who sacrificed their children in exchange for immortality. In that sense, Smiley's death was only temporary, and Fatima's womb was chosen to resurrect him, since she medically could not give birth to human children. Now let's discuss one of the craziest plot developments of From Season 4. You might have noticed that the horrific birth experience impacted Fatima so hard that it ended up eclipsing her sunny demeanor. She was struggling with the very idea of her existence and with the fact that maybe there was no way out of the town. While Ellis did his best to help her deal with the aftermath with this trauma, it was clear that there are things she needs to work through without him. Surprisingly enough, she reached out to Elgin for help and had him secretly gather a huge amount of dirt for her. We soon find out that Fatima was sculpting something from a religious folklore, and as it turns out, she was building a Gollum. She describes it to Kenny as a giant made of clay, or a champion that comes from religious folklore and is meant to be a symbol of hope. She also explains that while growing up in Iran, her father told her stories from other faiths, despite how dangerous it was to do so, and the tale of the Gollum was one that resonated with her the most. While it is not specifically mentioned in the show, the Gollum is actually taken from Jewish folklore and is a creature formed out of a lifeless substance such as dust or earth that is brought to life by ritual incantations and sequences of Hebrew letters. The Gollum, brought into existence by a human creator, becomes a helper, a companion, or a protector. In that sense, a symbol of hope is really something everyone needs to survive a dark place like Fromville, especially Fatima, who used her artistic skills to create something that did not just help her connect to the past, but also brings her comfort. As for why she is building the Gollum now, well, Fatima emphasized on how she still felt a disturbing connection to Smiley. Apparently, she could feel the darkness and the evil inside him. Not just that, he could sense her too, and that scared her. Making that Gollum allowed her to feel stronger and more in control, which was better than spiraling about the connections she has with the monster, while also giving her a way of fighting back. but that connection she felt was only the beginning of their twisted symbiotic relationship. So in the 7th episode of Season 4, Boyd decided to use one of the voodoo totems from the settlements on the creatures in order to test if it can kill them. This would also give them an upper hand while exploring the tunnels for the bones of the Angui kids. So Kenny and Ellis insisted he let someone else do it because if his Parkinson's symptoms got worse in the moment, it would end with his death. While they do manage to talk him out of facing the monsters, Kenny ends up volunteering, and as the night falls and the creatures come out, Kenny takes one of the totems and pierces it through one of the creatures in a white uniform. Now the unfortunate part is Sophia already knew about this plan and ended up telepathically alerting the creatures about what Boyd was up to. Initially, the creature pretended to be affected by the stabbing, but then it became clear that nothing really happened to him. Of course, now he was coming after Kenny, who had nowhere to go as all the other creatures had blocked all the entrances of every building he was supposed to run to if things went south. Without any other option at hand, Kenny made a run for the bus, but the smiley creature got in there and climbed after Kenny to the roof of the vehicle. The smiley creature then started mocking Kenny about how he had killed his father, and just as he was about to attack, we flash back to Fatima in the colony house, who could actually see as Smiley was about to transform to his monstrous face and come at Kenny. Just at that moment, she screamed no and seemingly got a hold of his mind, disrupting him for a second, which was long enough for Kenny to throw him off the bus and run inside to activate the talisman and protect himself for the night. This moment really seemed to feel a lot like how Will Byers came into his powers in Stranger Things Season 5, after unlocking his psionic abilities and tapping into Vecna's hive mind to destroy 3 Demogorgons simultaneously. Yes, Fatima did not exactly kill Smiley, but from what she said about being able to feel him and his motivations, it seems like this unlikely mother and son duo might just be symbiotically connected. In fact, in the last episode, Fatima also told Boyd, Kenny, Donna, and Ellis how she actually felt like she was present in the moment when Smiley was about to attack Kenny. She actually felt that she could see through Smiley's eyes and actually control him. But we soon find out that this newfound ability of Fatima being able to spy on Smiley had consequences, as tapping into his mind and controlling his body led to the formation of varicose veins, or vein-like patterns on Fatima's stomach. When Christy and Michelle check Fatima's vitals at the clinic, they initially seem to find nothing wrong. Now, under normal circumstances, the varicose veins on Fatima's belly could have been caused by her recent freak pregnancy. But since they are in Fromville, which means something else could be happening to her. Fatima kept wondering if she is transforming into one of those creatures because they were humans too at some point. But Ellis blatantly refutes that idea. Meanwhile, Marielle believed that her newfound abilities was probably a good thing because it has given her the superpower to control the Smiley creature. According to her, she should be working on harnessing this ability to allow the residents to have an upper hand against these monsters. Of course, nobody agrees with Marielle except for Fatima. In fact, Christy criticizes Marielle for blurting out her theory at a time when everyone's agitated, but Marielle stands her ground because she doesn't think that they have the luxury to get their timing right when it comes to sharing their thoughts about whatever's going on in Fromville. Later on, Christy checks on Fatima's vitals, who claimed that she was feeling fine. Fatima then tried to talk to Marielle about her theories about using her newfound powers to defeat the creatures, but Christy pulled her to the side to let her know that Fatima's vitals show that she's essentially dead. Apparently, Fatima is exhibiting vital signs that are flatly impossible for a living human being. Christy reveals her blood pressure has tanked to 53/33, and her heart rate is a stagnant 19 beats per minute. This means, scientifically, Fatima shouldn't be breathing, walking, or talking, yet she is perfectly conscious. Of course, the show does not clarify why this is happening to her because it seems like if she taps into her connection with Smiley again in order to spy on the creatures, it can have some serious consequences on her body. What kind of Fromville monster is Fatima turning into? While the most commonly teased theory is that Fatima might be turning into one of the monstrous creatures that come out at night, there are many more possibilities to it, especially because in Fromville, no answer is ever this easy. I think the first question that came to my mind after seeing the veins on Fatima's stomach was, what if she is turning into the ghostly kimono lady in an insane time loop paradox? Think about it, if Fatima is really transforming into a monster, this opens up a mind-bending theory that she could be turning into the kimono lady. If From operates on a causal time loop, a fully transformed monstrous Fatima could travel backwards through the town's history. As the kimono lady, she would intentionally haunt Elgin, pushing him to save her past self and ensure the Smiley baby is born. This cyclic paradox also ensures Kenny survives the encounter with Smiley and preserves the timeline. Moreover, unlike the other monsters, the kimono lady doesn't even try to look human. Her appearance and the blood on her kimono feel like important clues, even if we can't quite piece them together yet. But again, what if the woman in the kimono was right when she told Elgin that she could help them all to go home? Maybe she is actually Fatima from a different timeline, and she knew if she gave birth to Smiley, she would have a connection to him, which might actually help the people when they go to get the bones out of the tunnels. If that is the case, Fatima needs to sacrifice herself to save everyone, and she just doesn't know it yet. But I think at one point I even saw someone correlate her blue varicose veins to the same kind of veins that appear on the Angui kids, thus proving that she is probably very dead. Either way, Fatima is cooked, because she clearly is turning into something otherworldly. So the best she can do now is probably sacrifice herself to save the people of Fromville by helping them reach the bones of those ghoulish kids, even if Ellis asked her not to use her connection with the monster at all. But that was just my 2 cents. What do you think is really happening to Fatima? Is she now an undead being because she is symbiotically connected to an undead monster? Let us know about your thoughts and opinion in the comment box below.